Healing Arts, Encounters in Art and Medicine here at the Charité. My name is Lucas Feireis, and I'm deeply honored to be hosting the evening tonight. So who's here for the first time? Oh, wow. Great. So then let's say a few general words. So the series basically has been running for 3 years now, and it serves as a platform to bring together the worlds of art, of science, and of medicine. And it's tries to offer a space for conversation that explores the intersections of artistic expression and medical practice, a place where we can reflect on the transformative power that both fields hold in fostering healing, both individually and collectively. And you can find all the other lectures also online on our website. It's called thehealingarts.online, where you see all the, 20 lectures that or dialogues that happened here over the course of the last 3 years. And we start each time by reflecting back to you, the audience, your reflections of the last session. We've been doing this since the very beginning, and it's quite a nice way to read the room and also to kind of somehow tie back to the previous conversation. So 2 weeks ago, we had Professor Dr. Benno Brinkhaus here and Cristina Bucado. Who of you were here for the last session? That's a shy half, maybe a quarter, I'd say. Let me try to summarize this evening and also the lively discussion that happened afterwards, which explored multiple topics and challenges and emphasized how art and medicine, through rituals, empathy, and meaning, promote healing, but also that it requires systemic changes in both education and healthcare with holistic future medicine and art paths in mind. And we received beautiful reflections, very different from poems. I don't know if Georg is in the room, but very, let's say, Rimbaud-inspired poems to references to movies. We have also medical students that are also actors or filmmakers here in the crowd. And I'll read a few pieces. Marilyn wrote, "The Healing Arts lecture has profoundly expanded my perspective on health and healing. Instead of following a purely analytical biomedical approach, the focus was on the development of an art of knowledge, a form of knowing that arises through personal experience and holistic perception. It was about not just collecting facts, but feeling, sensing, and thereby developing a deeper understanding of the healing process." Lena wrote, "In this lecture, I was guided to the art of healing practices such as acupuncture, the placebo or meaning effect, and cacao ceremonies. Although I was already aware of these options, the session reopened my eyes and offered a renewed perspective on how I might approach my own health issues. It reminded me again that healing is not just about physical treatment, but also about perception, energy, and emotional context." And Anahita reflected, "I could deeply resonate with the experiences shared by Professor Brinkhaus, as, like him, I had the experience of facing disillusionment and disappointment just before the end of my medical studies. I also feel a regular urge to pursue a creative artistic direction as an alternative to conventional medicine. I have the impression that creative expression and holistic approaches are severely underrepresented in medical studies, and I'm convinced that the body should not be viewed as the sum of individual organ systems, but as the interplay of various systems, energies, spirituality, psyche, soma, and consciousness." And Natalie pointed out that the assertion that healing is better activated by meaningful communication with patients highlights a critical deficiency in current medical practice. If dialogue fosters recovery, what becomes of patients who, feeling unheard or dismissed, fail to heal or even withdraw from the medical system entirely? And Jasmine asked a question about empathy fatigue and physician burnout that maybe didn't get enough attention in this discussion, but as Jasmine wrote, what I found powerful, though, was what happened after the lecture. The moderator had encouraged us to talk to each other, and that gave me the courage for the first time in this setting to continue the conversation. And she did, and we encourage you all to do the same today. What we've been doing here for 3 years is bring practitioners and experts from the field of medicine, medical science, and the cultural together here on stage in a dialogue. But the same happens here in the crowd, in the audience. And this is kind of maybe the most powerful learning from the evening is your neighbor, whoever is sitting behind you, in front of you, or next to you. And that's something that we really would like to foster, that you kind of enter into this dialogue again. Just for the fun of it, we did that last time. How many of you come from the medical studies or medical field? Okay, and from the arts? And then others? Okay, so I would say it's a third, it's like 33, and 33%. But that's beautiful. That's the mixture that we are hoping for here as well. Yeah, but please take this as an overall invitation, no, to talk to each other. Our speakers tonight are experts whose careers are dedicated to dismantling boundaries, whether they be those of the mind, body, or societal stigmas surrounding mental health. Professor Dr. Kerstin Schoch's interdisciplinary work in art therapy and psychology is focused on integrating the arts as a tool for healing and challenging societal norms around mental illness. She holds a professorship for Intermedial Art Therapy at the Medical School in Hamburg. And their work at the Pop-Up Institute, where art and therapy meet to confront sanism, reflects their commitment to creative, inclusive spaces for healing. And Dr. Lily Martin, who, by the way, I think we met maybe at the very first session. No, yes. So actually, Kerstin and I, we meet in person for the first time tonight. We've been in like video calls before, but Lily attended the very first healing arts session at the UDK, which we started during my visiting professorship there, and we started talking afterwards. And yeah, so it's beautiful to now have you here on stage. But yeah, so Lily's research and clinical work revolve around the embodiment of psychiatric disorders and movement, connecting the mind and body in ways that are rarely explored in traditional psychiatric treatment. She is a post-doctoral researcher at the Brandenburg Medical School and a practitioner of the psychosomatic day clinic Sonnenallee of Vivantes. Her collaboration with Kerstin in founding the Pop-Up Institute is a testament to their shared vision of using creative methods to challenge stigma and promote mental well-being. And finally, Maryna Makarenko, a transdisciplinary artist, a performer, educator, and body worker, brings a unique perspective to tonight's discussion. We met also around about the same time at the UDK, where you were also teaching, and you were actually running the most interesting seminars that I wish I would have participated in. Your work engages with themes of identity, the body, and the complex intersections between the two, exploring liminality and transition in your artistic practice. As someone who navigates multiple identities and experiences, Maryna's contributions remind us of the fluidity and richness of the human condition. The seminars I just mentioned, she taught were at the Berlin University of the Arts on reclaiming witchcraft through art and collectivity, and witchcraft as an anarchist technique for subversion. So together, these three speakers will offer us great insights into the healing potential of integrating art and medicine. And tonight's conversation is an invitation to reflect on how we can bridge these worlds, to ask how art can heal not just the body, but also the spirit, the imagination, and the connections we have with one another. We will begin, like each time, with brief introductions of roughly 15 minutes from our speakers who will share their thoughts on the role of art in healing, followed by an open conversation. So thank you again for being here tonight. I look forward to an inspiring and thought-provoking dialogue. With that, let's begin. Stage is yours.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Lily Martin, as you said already. You can hear me because these microphones are very special. Okay. Okay. As was already said, I'm a psychologist. My pronoun is she, her. I'm a psychologist and a psychotherapist in training. I work at Medical School Brandenburg as a researcher and as a practitioner at the psychosomatic day clinic at Sonnenallee in Neukölln. And also I'm an associate researcher at Alanus University, where I did this pop-up institute project together with Kerstin Schoch, who can introduce herself.
Yes, hi, I'm Kerstin Schoch. My pronouns are they, them. I'm an art therapist and psychologist, and I currently hold a professorship of Intermedial Art Therapy at the Medical School Hamburg at the campus Arts and Change.
Together with Kerstin Schoch, we founded the pop-up institute in 2019. Then we had to postpone it 1 year because Corona pandemic hit. In 2020, we started with the project. And our aim with the pop-up institute is to reduce stigma or to fight the general stigma of mental illnesses in the population by using means, artistic means and means of creative arts therapies. And by using artistic methods, we try to make the experience of people with mental illnesses available for the general public, try to create an experience in the public that resembles or that makes this experience understandable. The Pop-Up Institute always works project-based, location-independent, participatory, and open-ended. This means it only pops up whenever there is a anti-stigma project that calls for its expertise. It doesn't work all the time, only when there's projects. Because it's so slim in its organizational structure, it is very location independent. It can work basically everywhere where we go. And it's always participatory. Each project works with collaborators, and all those collaborators have different viewpoints on the respective mental illness that we look at. And all projects are open-ended. So in the beginning of the project, there is no fixed idea of what the end point, the end result, or the product has to be. It always develops in the process. In our first project, we chose to work with schizophrenia, to look at schizophrenia as one of the most heavy mental illnesses, also because I did my doctorate on it and we found each other in that context also. And we brought together 8 individuals with different expertise. 4 people with expertise in the arts, in various kinds of arts, and 4 people with expertise through experience, meaning they had experienced various symptoms of schizophrenia. And we worked together with these 8 people and with a little film crew for over a year. We met in a kickoff meeting, got to know each other, chose areas of interest and designed little focus groups. And then we met regularly in different contexts, different constellations, big group, small group, to do improvisation work, exploratory work in different artistic media, collected artistic or aesthetic material, and in the end had structuring discussions about how to present the art or the works that were created, and developed an art festival in the end of the project that was shown in 2022 in Berlin-Kreuzberg at Salon am Moritzplatz. Maybe some of you know that place, for 8 days. Very, very hot summer. I think the hottest summer that back then that I ever had experienced. Yeah, and this is part of our poster that was put all over Berlin. And the festival was called Mental, the Art Festival on Schizophrenia. And Kerstin will show you some exemplary exhibits now.
Yeah, so today we will present a small selection of the artworks that we collaboratively developed there. And many of them were interactive exhibits, so we invited especially young people, teenagers, to join us for workshops, artist talks, for the festival, to try out the art we brought to them. And this is, for example, one of them. This artwork is called Invisible. It was a performative work in a demolition hall. We were in Marzahn, and we were working with object trouvé. For everybody who's not from the arts, object trouvé is a concept that you find stuff and you declare it to be art in a specific context. So we were interacting with these objets trouvé there, and we were interacting with an invisible artist who's not in the photos, who was spraying silhouettes on the concrete wall. And then we started interacting with two performers with these artworks and with the whole process, and did a photographic staging of these works. The second one is called No Mud, No Lotus. Maybe you know Thich Nhat Hanh, who used to be a Vietnamese Buddhist monk. And the idea of no mud, no lotus means that you can be in touch with your suffering without being overwhelmed from your suffering. And this was a topic one of our collaborators was very concerned with. It was a very emotive she was working on for quite a while, also through the process. And what we did finally in the installation, we did a performance there. So we created a 2 per 2 meter, I think, a whole mud field there in the basement of our Salon am Moritzplatz, who used to be an old, how do you say it, old Sparkasse building. So in the treasure room, we put the installation in there. And then at the festival, a performance artist who was naked and painted in pink color was performing in there to be the lotus flower and to struggle and all this thing. So this basement room was really crowded. It was this hot 30-degree summer day, but everybody was in there, and it was really an experience. And then we had an audio walk whose title was Inside. And we had the idea of bringing closer experiences of hallucinations, especially acoustic hallucinations. So a team of our collaborators worked on this using the exact content, their voices were speaking, and the sound of them, how they presented. And then we put it on earphones, and we asked people to take it out there in the public space, in the streets of Kreuzberg, and to get into this experiences of psychotic hallucinations, to get a feel of it, get a tiny feel of it, how it might affect you in your daily life. And then, oh, no, I missed a slide, but I can tell it, I think, like that. No, I lost it. I can do it in pro. So this was Sentire Mental. Sentire is a sound system, a digital sound system that makes movement and body relationships audible. So it's a body sound machine, and we're wearing these bracelets that can measure how close or how far you are. And we put an audio on there, also using the voices of the hallucinations, and then people could interact there. So in the festival, we had a lot of performances going on like there, like on the left side, and then also visitors of the festival could use this and try it out with this hallucinatory voices, reflecting on the relationship, how we move together, how we react to each other in this situation. And then this last exhibit we want to show you. This is called Othering Selfies. It is a mirror installation we did in the window, in the shop window of the Super Lab. We did not only have the Salon am Moritzplatz. The project got so big, so we had to rent another room and even go into public space because there were so many ideas with the collaborators. So in the shop window, we put these glazed mirrors. We were painting at the Abrisshalle in Marzahn. And then we did photographs of all the collaborators where you can't see if it's a person with or without schizophrenia. And then we put the mirror photographs together in this mirror, in this shop window. And then people could interact with it and make mirror selfies again. And if they wanted to, they could put it online and put the hashtag Mental the Festival on there. So this was also what I want to end with this artwork, is that this othering selfies reflects on self-perception and the perception of other people. And we have othering processes, especially when it comes to discrimination, such as sanism, that our perception gets very narrow and we just think of one detail a person makes to be kind of is, which, for example, is being neurodivergent. So othering selfies emphasizes this restriction of our perceptions when we discriminate against people, and it prevents us from actually encountering the multitude that we are with all our needs and interests and capacities and everything we can do. And this is something we wanted to foster in this whole project.
To make all these results and the festival available for the public also after the limited time of the exhibition, we chose various open formats of documentation, methodology, and also publication. I mentioned a film crew that participated, accompanied the whole project. They were there from the very beginning to the very end of the exhibition and created a 40 minutes documentary of the whole project. It's called Gesichter einer Ausstellung, or Faces of an Exhibition. And it's with this QR code available on YouTube. Also on the website of our project, you can, all exhibits, not only the ones that you just saw now, but also all the others are documented with pictures and described. And you can read them, and some of them you can also experience digitally, like the audio walk. And we are in the process of writing an open access publication about the results of the project. And we also evaluated the project with with a questionnaire. So people who entered were asked to fill out a short, tiny questionnaire on their phones with a QR code to before and after the exhibition. And these methods we also put into an online repository, you call it, so you can download them for free and also use them if you want to. And the whole project was financed by Volkswagen Stiftung and Eckhard Busch Stiftung and supported by Soteria of St. Hedwig Krankenhaus or Hospital, which is also part of Charité. And this is the QR code for our website. And that's it. Thank you very much for your attention.
Hi, everyone. Okay, first of all, I want to make the sound check as usual. So can everyone hear me? Make a sign. Okay, I want you to hear me. Okay, let's travel together through some images. So I invite you to close your eyes. And also all of the people who join us online, you also please close your eyes. Let's all close our eyes for a moment. When your eyes are closed, I invite you to imagine an old house. There is a room in this house, even though it is a large room, but it feels really cozy. This room serves different functions, being same time a living room, a kitchen, and a bedroom. In the first half of the room, there is a girl of about 4 years old sitting on a tall wooden chair, and her feet do not reach the ground, so she can swing her legs. She faces the window, and behind her is a large human-sized clay stove. In this moment, the fire is off, but you can still feel the heat and subtle smell of the food. Behind the girl stands an old woman. Her body is thin and her shoulders and neck are slightly bent forward from aging. The room is rather dark. The trees outside are blocking the light. The old woman has few objects in her hands. She is holding an egg, a knife, and a candle. She begins rolling an egg on a little girl's back, making a circle. Together with that, she is whispering some words that is really hard to understand. It might be a spell, it might be a prayer. She lights the candle and begins to walk in circles around the wooden chair and the girl in it. Then she walks to the window and takes a glass from the table to break an egg into it. She slowly examines an open egg, and then she spits few times on the floor. Between the clay stove and the window, there is a door. I invite you to come closer to that door. With your left hand, please turn the metal knob on the door. When it opens, walk through the door and come back to this room where we are together. Welcome back. You may open your eyes now. So this little girl on a wooden tall chair was me. And I was part of the very first and probably one of the best performances that I ever experienced in my life. And it was in the village of my grandmother where I grew up. So the local sorcerer, or how we like to call them witches today, performed the ritual on me to cure me from stuttering. And stuttering was often a result of me being frightened by, let's say, street dogs. So I was losing my ability to speak. And the sorcerer, the witch, was helping me to find this ability back. So in the region where I come from, in the northeast Ukraine, every village in 90s had few sorcerers who, with the help of their rituals, cure different ailments, psychological ones, but also physical ones. And that was a form of a community healthcare. There were also herbalists with deep understanding of healing properties of plants. And instead of fairy tales, I was told local stories of how the witches were casting, for example, an evil eye on someone or cured human and animal bodies. My grandfather had a deep knowledge of the healing properties of plants, and my grandmother, like other women in her community, knew spells and prayers to cure. She was called Sheptucha, which in Ukrainian means the woman who whispers. So this knowledge, this practice was widely spread and passed on orally. It means that there were no workshops, no schools, nothing you can learn from. You need to learn this practice from a living archive, which means another person. In the time and in that place, the modern psychology and psychiatry, like we know them today, didn't exist. So that was a way to enter the human psyche. Now I just remembered about my slides, but it's okay. Okay, oh, that's really dark. Yeah. Okay, it's quite dark, but you can still see on this picture a table So basically, this is a healer from Ukraine, from the village of Zoryane, Riven province. Her name is Luba. And you can see her altar. It's a bit dark. And then you can also see in the left side, like a continuation of an altar with different images. So basically, the woman that I told you at the beginning, her house looked very similar to that one. So magical spells and prayers that sorcerers were using is a form of encoded language to open the doors to the human subconscious. And to me, this language in some way is also similar to a computer code. Okay, now again it's black. So I believe that growing up in this environment, in a way, defined my interest in art making as a form of a magical act, and as a way to speak to human subconscious. To me, art making is about observing, collecting, exploring, and asking questions. So I experience, I experiment, and I tell stories. And in a way, it doesn't really matter for me which form I choose. The most important is how close I can touch a human soul. As an artist, I'm attracted to everything that is intuitive, poetical, and liminal. So I like to think about the idea of lineage, not just as something that is about our ancestors. I also like to expand the idea of lineage to intellectual lineage also. So here I would like to bring into the space the sci-fi writer Ursula K. Le Guin. And basically, it really resonates what she tells. I talk about the gods. I'm an atheist, but I'm an artist too, and therefore a liar. Distrust everything I say. I'm telling the truth. The only truth I can understand or express is logically defined a lie, psychologically defined a symbol, aesthetically defined a metaphor. Well, this one can hang for a bit. I'm not going to read it because I'm going over time. So producing artworks to me becomes some kind of a byproduct, actually. Because art is first of all, a tool of meaning making, a way to look at the world. So working with ideas and images, I find myself often in a liminal space. And also this liminal space is intensified by the fact that I am born in a woman's body, and also I'm an immigrant. So I go each month through the cycles of hormonal change and different forms of my own identity. And also as an immigrant, I'm in a constant search for feeling of home and belonging. Sometimes it feels like I departed and I never arrived. And also the economic precarity of neoliberal market economy makes me anxious sometimes when I need to make money with art. But I still make this choice to be where I am. And liminality of my human experience is about freedom and anxiety, and they both belong together. So I want to bring up this image here. One of my favorite TV series, Twin Peaks, and I think David Lynch is a master of portraying liminal spaces. So this is a pathway or a corridor, a place of transition, and that's very often I find myself in this transitory spaces. So now the question is how to cope with the uncertainty that the liminal condition brings. So to anchor myself, to rescue myself from this full dissolution caused by liminality, I need a ritual. So a ritual is a practice that I invent, I repeat, and that helps me to stretch time, but also to slow down the time. The practice where I feel safe, where I can root my body in. And ritual becomes a frame to frame the chaos of the mundane. So another person I would like to bring here is a Berlin-based philosopher who also teaches at UDK. And basically he says that we can define rituals as a symbolic technique of making oneself at home in a world. They transform from being in a world into being at home. They turn the world into a reliable place, and they are to time what a home is to the space. Whenever I perform a ritual, I find a momentary home and I arrive. So what makes a ritual an effective one? When I can find myself in it, when I own it, and when I believe in it. And at this point, I want to introduce you to the practice of psychomagic, which is developed by a filmmaker, writer, and psychotherapist, Alejandro Jodorowsky. Maybe some of you know here. So he insists that in order to cure, all senses must operate. And in this case, psychoanalysis is limited. To hear and to talk is not enough. So for each person and their problem, he develops a unique act, a blend of theater, performance, and intention. Psychomagic and shamanism are different pathways to reach the subconscious. It is some kind of strategy to trick the mind and to let it drop its guards. To develop psychomagic principles, he had been closely for years observing the work of Panchita, the Mexican shaman healer woman. And psychomagic consists of shamanic and genealogical principles to create healing therapy that uses the power of dreams, art, and theater to empower people to heal wounds that sometimes travel through the generations. So I've been talking about the mystical and philosophical aspects of magic and witchcraft, and now I want to shift towards its politics, which is about politics of the body, politics of domestic labor, and politics of community care and politics of healthcare. So sometimes I was asking myself, how is it possible that practices of witchcraft are still possible to find in Ukraine in the 90s, for example, but they completely didn't exist in that form in Germany, for example. And I believe that the answer to that is the history of the witch hunts. It's a big tragedy in our human history. And basically, like Silvia Federici, I really recommend this book for people who are interested. She explored deeply the history of witch hunts in Europe, what is present-day Germany, France, Italy, Switzerland, England, Belgium, Luxembourg, and Netherlands. And basically, she says, the witch is a figure of spiritual and intellectual freedom, embodying a connection to nature and alternative ways of healing. So, and also she connects the process of witch hunts to the way how capitalism established itself. And because witches were women who were targeted, and they were challenging the emerging capitalist order. They were aliens for that time, and they also possessed knowledge that was not wanted and undesirable. And these women were often healers, they were midwives, they were herbalists, and those who engaged in communal activities. And they were basically persecuted. So to call someone a witch at that time was a political weapon, and culturally, from that time, the word witch also gained some kind of a negative connotation. So here I want to look at how witches were portrayed and are portrayed in the cinema. And I took this image. It's one of the first Ukrainian horror movies, which is called V, from 1976. And you can see the woman on the left, she's a witch, and she's young, she's sexy, she's seductive, she's dangerous, and she's demonic. And that's we can find these examples in many other films and stories. So finally, I want to finish with sharing some of my work. Just very short, I'm gonna mention two things. So the performance I did last year, which is called Green River's Tongue Tied. It was produced by the Festival Osten. And basically in this performance, I traced the myths and gossips that surrounded the history of the film factory, which was in my hometown. And I embodied these earthy and mythical beings. And I create a narrative around conditions of female labor, human body, fluids, and materiality of film production, also themes of ritual and mechanization. And as Lucas mentioned at the beginning, another form of my artistic practice is also facilitating artistic laboratories and workshops. So the last one was this year at UDK as a part of Kollisionenwoche. And basically together with my collaborator, Anna Volkland, we facilitated a week-long workshop, which is called Center for Witchcraft as an Anarchist Technique for Subversion, where we propose to reimagine witchcraft as a profound, collective, and somatic experience that can transform how we perceive both the visible and invisible worlds. It reshapes our mindsets and approaches to working and living together by engaging with dreams and intuitive processes. Through this, it is also possible to explore new ways of connecting, organizing, and relating to each other. So finally, I want to finish with the picture of this altar. This altar belongs to a woman whose name is Pai, and she lives in Chiang Mai in Thailand. So I was traveling there a few months ago to study bodywork, and I went to take a toxin massage with Pai, and I really liked this altar, and I asked her to take a picture of it. So basically, I really like altars as an artwork because it's a collection of carefully picked objects and where each object has its unique place and position. But also an altar is a way to honor a lineage, and also an altar is a form of a portal to enter the subconsciousness. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you to all three of you for your presentation. Now the fun part starts. That's the conversation. And thank you, Maryna, for your very autobiographical starting point. And I remember we once took a walk to the Hasenheide, and you told me the story of the Whispering Lady, and it really stuck in my head. But this brings me to two of you, because you started directly with the Pop-Up Institute. But I'd be curious to learn a little bit more about you two, like how you got where you are, like why you do what you do, which we learned quite a bit from Maryna. But maybe you can share some more of these personal notes with us. Because before we get into the nitty-gritty and the academic discourse, I find it always quite interesting to understand how do you guys end up being here in a series on art and medicine, or why are we doing this? So we understand this from Maryna, but the two of you, I'm quite curious.
Okay, where to start? I try to keep it short.
I studied art therapy quite a while ago, I think 20 years ago, so. And then I started working, especially in a psychiatric context with traumatized children that experienced violence and things like that. And then I thought, I want to do science. Actually, I want to go to academia, but I need something more. So I decided to go for second studies in psychology, which I did at Mannheim University. And I must say, since I'm always between the chairs. I really love working post-disciplinary, but I'm too artsy for the psychologists, and I'm too quantitative methods for the artists. So I'm always somewhere in between. I would say this is very much who I am, always beyond, always in between, always, yeah, searching where I belong, kind of, but in another way.
It's really interesting because for me, it was the other way around. I studied psychology and at some point stopped because I was so bored by the learning everything by heart and then reproducing it on the paper and not thinking and not doing anything interesting. Also with everything else we have, the body and the movement, not just the mind. So, but then at some point after a gap year, I decided I cannot just hang out and do nothing. So I went back to finish my studies, but searched for the little fields that are interesting for me within psychology and found the arts therapies and in that the movement therapies. And Sabine Koch, who works as a movement therapist and as a dance therapist, and wrote my master's thesis with her. And that's where my whole journey with researching the movement and the connection of the body and the mind within psychological and a lot of times also very quantitative research started. And then still I was very much attached to research and to very logic stuff. And I always craved for this more experienced parts, working with creative aspects of arts and with people who have made experiences and somehow to bring this together. And there is this one artist, Bill T. Jones, who was, I don't know if he still lives, I think he had cancer. He worked with people who were terminally ill. And he did this dance performance through year-long workshops with people who are and were terminally ill, and then created this entire dance piece. And that was kind of the, how do you say, the
initiation.
The initiation, where the idea also for the Pop-Up Institute came from, to work with the arts, with people who have made a certain experience, to transport what it means, how it feels to make these experiences.
And maybe this brings us or connects all of you, the idea of kind of practice as research that I would say ties a thread between all three practices, and the interplay between an artistic practice and a scientific or but in an inquiry, let's say. How, this is a question for all three of you, how do you see these two domains? And you quite clearly defined them also as two domains, no? How do you think they influence each other? And how do you keep a balance also between creativity and inquiry?
So just to understand, the question is how about the balance between the, like in the terms of scientific research or like collecting and creating, or?
Yes, I think what sorry for being unclear, but you all have practice as a research. There's an inquiry moment and there's one of artistic output, and there's two different domains that you mentioned there. But how do you balance these two in your own work?
to me, it's all one. Like there is no, like I don't have separation between things. And I think that's maybe also the difference between being a scientist, because in a way, like I think it's also maybe many artists can resonate with that you become your own like your own material, like you are your own material for the research. So in a way it's like always going like inside this like reciprocity. And I'm not a scientist. I mean, I know that there is also like the form of research is probably different. Like in science, there's protocols, there is like a bit of a different framework. When in art, it's like opposite. There is no protocol. There is this kind of like all possibilities. And sometimes it can be confusing. And maybe that's also the question, how to find a balance in that, and kind of like how to make choices.
I think I would agree in some way that these are not two totally different things. I think both research and art are methods of inquiry, I would say. I mean, quantitative methods sounds a bit boring in the beginning, but if you want to try to find new ways to put study designs, find out new things that are not just the classic RCT replication study or something like that, I also think it's a very kind of creative process. When I used to study psychology, I thought these people are all geniuses, the studies, the papers I read, like they make things up, especially social psychology, and I can't do that. And then later I realized it's actually a lot of thinking and just talking and talking with your colleagues and finding creative ideas, how you find out this certain thing. I do research also on picture analysis and stuff. So I think it's very much connected. And I think the same method I use in art when we refer to contemporary art, then it's not just to be decorative. So you don't have just the oil painting in a golden frame somewhere upon your sofa. That's just nice to watch at. I think contemporary arts is very much about inquiry as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I often feel like I have two hearts pounding in my chest, because for me sometimes it's very hard to get these things together. I really agree with everything as a form of inquiry and also has exactly the same value. Sometimes arts can give us insights that talking and just writing cannot. But I have hard time sometimes to get those two hearts together, because when I'm a scientist, like I have to be objective. My own experience doesn't count so much. I'm not supposed to be inside like when I'm really quantitatively a scientist, my own experience shouldn't go into the design. But when I do projects like we did, it very much matters. And also now I'm a little bit entering into qualitative research, where all of this kind of flies together again. So it's very hard for me to answer this question.
Yes, I think it's at the core also of this series, because well, the reality is that these are two different worlds, the scientific community and the artistic community, and they are very different as epistemological patterns behind it. You mentioned earlier that you always feel like in between. You're too quantitative for the artist and too artistic for the psychologist. You were speaking about the liminality, like also the in-betweenness. So maybe we can help the audience understand this, let's say, literally disciplinary condition that you're in. Yeah, because it's not as easy as it's both a form of an inquiry, yes and no, because it's really two different worlds we're talking about, and we're trying to bridge them, but we have to be, I try to be as specific as possible.
I think a lot is already changing, I think, in the fields. And I think it's all about having your community. I think we kind of found a community that's both based on research and the arts without neglecting one or the other. But it's rare. But I think like in the whole discourse, especially, for example, in this kind of event we're having here, I think there are a lot of people starting to think things together of these disciplines and also societal aspects. I think it's a lot changing. And I think it needs freaks like us to bring this discipline sort of together and don't care if you feel outside and not understood by one or the other discipline.
I agree with everything.
And it's still hard sometimes to communicate. I just had in mind to find words that everyone understands similarly. And even when I speak to people from different research fields, when I do an interdisciplinary project, sometimes we don't understand each other and we think of different things when we talk about methods. And so it's maybe the starting point is communication and to really understand what exactly do you mean when you speak about your practice and how can we find connecting points.
Yeah, good point. Maybe we don't have to become fluent, but at least conversational. Another key theme that is connects the three of you is the topic of embodiment, or let's say understanding the body as a site of knowledge. So let's get into this.
I'm here. Okay, so what, yeah, I mean, there's like so much you can talk about it, like from, I guess, from artistic perspective, that will be one conversation, from scientific perspective, that will be a different conversation.
Well, let's start with you. It's like, how do you integrate the body, whether it's through movement, through art, through therapy, in your process of understanding or addressing questions of health and healing?
I like everything I do, I try on myself, like all of the ideas and things, practices that I do, like I am my own field of experimentation, my body. And yeah, and I think also, once again, I would like to mention this, which I briefly touched, this idea of being a living archive, and we are all living archives of something. We are all carry unique stories inside of our bodies, also like traumatic stories as well, that with the help of the artistic practice, art therapy, but also with the help of community, the group, we help to transform into something else and like let it travel through us. Yeah, I would start from there.
Maybe I want to take a very personal stance on embodiment. Like something I realized the last years was, as a therapist, I'm very much reflecting my emotions, my cognitions, my behavior, everything is my mind, and I understood everything kind of. And then I had this major life event 2.5 years ago, and everything just blew me apart. And I've realized for the first time that speaking and thinking about it really does not help me. So I started doing some somatic body work with that. And I just realized it was weird because I'm an arts therapist for years, for 20 years now. And then I realized actually it's kind of working for me as well. I'm always talking about that in every lecture, like embodiment and this and that. And then I just realized actually I can understand something about me with working with my body that I did not understand before on another level. And I think this is really life-changing. It can be, yeah.
To me, this is the most easy and natural thing. We all are people who have a body, and everything we think influences what we feel like, and everything or how we move and everything we do physically influences how we think. I mean, we're no brains without a body, no one of us. And then there's this whole research field about embodiment, which is cool, but it's so obvious. And to me, always, I mean, I started doing research on it and tried to show that, for example, having an illness called schizophrenia also has an impact on your movement and your physicality and how you feel in your body. But when you get to the point, like to the core of it, it's so obvious. But still, somehow we got lost on the way that we think it's all about our mind. Yeah, I don't know.
I just thought about adding something because you asked about embodiment, and I would like to bring up this embodiment because like we are living in a time where there is a lot of disembodiment around, and like simply the presence of a human touch, for example, like the idea of intimacy, how it's understood like in this time and space. And I want to bring back to the first session of the series when we were speaking about the museum, the notion of museum, and at Bode Museum there's this project Healing Museum, and I was kind of thinking about the museums as a places that are very disembodied, and this is like one example. So in a way, like when we speak about the embodiment, how can we create more spaces for ourselves to do it? Yeah, and that's, I think, about like changing deeply the systems that we are living in.
And this goes on and on. Like also when we think about therapy, do we only talk, or do we, for example, integrate some embodied aspects into therapy, and how do we do it? And in all clinics, there is these aspects, but in ambulant, do you say ambulant therapy, ambulante therapy, when you go to a psychotherapist, it's not. And it goes, you know, you can integrate embodiment everywhere. There's someone who really wants to say something. Also lectures, like we had a tiny embodiment part where you had us go, or it was more an imaginative part, but still we laid back, we closed our eyes, or you let us go somewhere else. But you're right, yeah. Also in how we learn and pedagogy and universities. Or yeah, you want to take a break now?
Month ago, the 2-hour lecture is available for psychiatry already. Why is it down without a break? True.
What if we get up now, all of us?
What about we all change
And
the
shake.
position? No, seriously, you all find a different spot. I mean it. All find a new spot in the room. We have 2 minutes for that.
Also ja, wir wechseln auch.
Ja. Hey, ich auch. Ja. Nee, ist okay, aber ich werde ja gleich auch jetzt rumwuseln. Ich werde noch eine Frage stellen und dann geht es ins Publikum sozusagen. Ja, gute Idee. Das auch rein. Everyone settled almost? So thank you for the creative input. Very good idea. So I'm going to ask only one more questions to our 3 speakers, and then it's on you to give further input, like we just had. And it's such a good point that these lectures are. I mean, we overflex with our intellect here, and also here we forget our body. So thank you for this precious reminder. One thing that I would like to ask you is about this kind of notion of deconstructing stigmas, or kind of deconstructing mental barriers, which I would say is also for all 3 of you. and doing this through either art therapy or artistic practices. From your experiences, and you left out the results of your exhibition or pop-up institute. So coming to these, from your experience, what are the benefits or challenges from using artistic practices and art therapy in order to, challenge, fight, deconstruct these stigmas, in particular on mental health. And while they answer, I will walk around already and see who raises a hand. Okay, that was easy. Okay.
I think the strength of working with this is my personal view on working with the arts or artistic methods is that they are experience based. So you create something with an experience that we did with people who actually experienced symptoms of schizophrenia. You create something that is aesthetically distant. It's not telling the symptom or writing it down, but it has an aesthetic format and it's somehow distanced from the exact experience in that way. And then it can in turn create another experience and is open for interpretation or another experience by the person who looks at it or who experiences it. Like we had a lot of interactive stuff. And then the feedback we got a lot from people that visited the exhibition was that they had an understanding on another level than on a cognitive level. And somehow this creates Nähe, closeness and understanding on another level than when I just tell you I felt so bad because I experienced this and that.
Yeah, so talking about the festival visitors, I think I made an effort not to see people in a turn of, how I call it, like a sanist porn, or these poor people, they're so different, oh my goodness, not to have this perspective in some, but you have to have an empowering perspective on experiencing schizophrenia as something in the continuum of neurodiversity. And I think one thing what really made a difference in there was that we invited our collaborators because of that expertise. We didn't want to work with clients or patients or do therapy or something. We invited them because they have something we don't have. They have the actual experiences, how it feels for themselves, and to see that as an expertise for a different view on the world. I think it was a major thing that we changed. So people started sharing a lot. We had like 4 collaborators, but we also had a voice working with us actually as a 5th collaborator, which was a hallucinatory voice, which became a part of our team. So just not to be there to judge and to have your sanist porn going on in your head, really see the people as they are with all their expertise. And I think that really made a difference also in our team and an impact.
We paid everyone for their expertise, for their working hours with the same amount of money, better than ourselves. No, but everyone got paid with people with art experience, people with experience of schizophrenia. So they were all collaborators, actual collaborators. And when you refer to the results of the evaluation of the exhibition, we didn't publish them yet, but they show a slight decrease in stigma. It's a tiny questionnaire that we did, and we made it from parts of existing stigma questionnaires, but still there is a quantitative, statistical, tiny decrease in stigma in the viewers.
Want to add anything from stigma?
Okay. Yes. Okay. Hello, my name's Arlo. I'm here. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm a multidisciplinary artist who occupies the spaces of dance, embodiment, technology, and sound. Thank you all for your talks, first of all, and I found your witchcraft talks incredibly resonant. Each of you spoke on liminality and spaces of in-between. And I saw it, the impression that I had was seeing it through a more negative lens, but I'm curious in which ways the incomprehensible or being like unknowable or unnameable or in between is actually a strength, and how you all have remained bridges within your communities.
Actually, I wouldn't say this being in between is actually per se something negative. I think it's also very freeing for myself, I'm gonna say. It's more the perception of classic disciplines that it's kind of annoying that you don't fit in. But if you don't care so much about it anymore and you find your communities with people who also think out of the box in every terms of life, I think it's very positive and it's very kind of freeing, and we can do what we actually want to do. And I think we also were some sort of kickstarters in our community. We just applied for this funding, and it was our first third-party funding, and we got it right away. It was really luck, I'd say, or I don't know. So we started something that now really resonated in our community, and people really didn't think that actually we could pull it off, and we pulled it off kinda, and it was a major thing that's now somehow circling in our community. So I think it's very freeing to think out of the box and do stuff that you didn't do yet. Still, people don't get that it's kind of science communication, but it's also arts, and it's also arts therapies, and then it's also anti-discrimination stuff. So where actually are you? But we're kind of everything and all.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That sometimes it brings this feeling of like being everywhere, and maybe sometimes not really like going deep enough into something, but at the same time, like it opens up the doors to many different spaces, and also it gives, let's say, I can speak about myself. Like I tried to work with different forms of art making, and like I had a moment when I was asking myself, okay, maybe I should like stop experimenting, because I just keep this ongoing experimentation, when it's gonna stop. But then I realized that I actually collected knowledge about different fields that give me freedom to actually better understand and to kind of collage things in a better way. So in a way, for me, liminality is also a lot about collaging things, and also maybe sometimes even choosing the best out of what is available. So yeah, I think like when I was speaking, maybe it sounded negative, but actually like it's both. It's there is definitely like maybe a danger to be lost sometimes, because maybe you don't belong, but then there is also this freedom, and it can bring you to the places where you didn't go before. So in a way, it's like, how do you navigate it? Because it's like with everything in life, no, it can be negative, it can be positive, or if you manage to navigate and to find your strategy, then it can be the strength.
Okay, I'm just going to continue. Yeah, of course. So my name is Roja. I go by she, her, and also thank you so much for your talks. I'm a design student, really interested, or like working at the moment in like the waiting area of medical field, so the intersection too, and I'm also a dancer. And I wondered, oh, sorry, thank you. Like this, is that better? Okay, okay, I tried to speak up. I thought it was very interesting when you talked about embodiment and the body, and I wanted to ask you to maybe go even deeper into it. I wonder about your reflection in a sense of what do you think art and also working with the body can do that medicine and healing can't, or what is the extension of it? And also, do you think it's inherently the body, or is it also the perspective different fields have on it? Is it also the meaning we give it? And I guess it's also something I'm interested in, like when I did my dance education retrospectively, I see now how it really helped me heal in different ways and access like different parts I thought about in different ways too.
I wonder if you have similar experiences, or it's a very broad question, but I'm interested in your reflection on that. Yeah, thank you.
Something maybe I want to share, which is so sadly in this current world we're living in, there is very often I see the gap, and like I speak about like art making practice, like I see the gap, and this gap is dividing practice into two parts, and one part is the producing a product that is interesting, that is in a way supposed to like sell, and then another one is to actually practicing for yourself, like without an idea of an audience, without an idea of being seen, and that also sometimes makes me a bit disappointed, and sometimes I feel like maybe I question my choice of art making, and that's where like let's say the relationship between art and therapy comes in, because I think if we bridge them two together, there is like really beautiful things that emerge. So I think right now at this point, I'm rather more interested into that rather than making art for like just showing, but like I mean, I don't judge anyone. I think like the art for aesthetic reasons, it's also like necessary, because every person has a different experience with it. Like that's, I think, the also beautiful thing about art, that the same artwork would be understood in a different way depending who is looking on this artwork, because we bring our own personal experience and it becomes relational. But like for me personally, I think I'm more interested in this other path, which may change also. Yeah, I don't know. I think I didn't really answer your question.
It's a very big question to me. I somehow think that medicine is a very embodied practice, because even when you take medicine, like you take pills, they do something to your body. You feel it, it has an influence. As I said before, to me, it's all embodied. Like we are embodied individuals, and everything we do is embodied. All we experience is embodied. So on the contrary, psychology, not only medical practice, but psychology is very mind focused. So I can maybe share from my doctoral thesis. I worked with people with schizophrenia. I did motion capturing with them to assess their movement, but also made long interviews, like 3-hour interviews per person. And a lot of people show signs and changes in movement, and a lot of people also tell that they feel different in their bodies, but they have never been asked about this before. And there is not many therapies in our clinics, and also in especially in the ambulante therapy sector, where we focus on that and where we integrate it into daily practice. One thing that is very helpful when there's a huge crisis at the moment, a psychotic crisis, and what people tell me often, is to touch yourself, to feel yourself, to pressure yourself against a wall, to ground yourself in the here and now, that you feel yourself, you're here, you're not dissolving, you're not, so these things and small things, and you can integrate it very well into therapy. So what can it do that therapy cannot? I think therapy is that too, Yeah.
I want to add also, because I was just like sitting here and feeling, oh, I feel myself that I'm in this like position of I'm the artist, so I'm like I have an expertise to speak about like art making, and I felt like, oh, like I don't want to be in this like this kind of yeah, it didn't feel so free somehow, and then I thought how like the way how we understand art when it's like professionalized, no, that there is an artist, the one who is allowed to make art, and then there is everyone else who is not an artist but they somehow are creative. So I would like I don't agree with that, and I think also, you know, we all like creativity is something that is a driving force of our human existence, like it's ongoing change. So we all make art on a daily basis, we just don't notice it somehow. Yeah, I just felt like I need to share that.
Thank you so much for being embodied here and sharing all these words. I don't have a question, I have more a comment. I feel very comforting just listening, because as well I feel very situated in this in-between state with psychology background, art therapy, being in the artistic research. And I had to think of, there's an Institute for Artistic Research in Berlin with the director of Julian Klein. And he wrote an article about the mode as the method. So where he tries to describe these different modes we have, and especially the in-between mode, which is more the artistic mode. And I felt as well, it's like, it's the mode that gives us movement, that brings us to different spaces and creates creation. So I feel always this struggle of, we have this need to be very clear, and our world wants us to be very clear, but there's so much vagueness that is so uncomforting, and we try to grasp like emotions or things that are so big and complex, and words don't grab it. And these in-between states try to find ways for this creation. And I think just what you said as well, as like finding these people as well that feel comfortable enough to move in this in-between states always gives me here already a very comforting space just to listen to you and see people, yeah, they voice it, and they create spaces for actually making it more comfortable for other people.
It's very comforting to hear you speak. Thank you.
It also reminds me of the end of the film, the documentary that was made about our project, where we have one of our collaborators saying, you know, sometimes I think people with mental illness just have a more intense and more interesting life and just have more to tell, definitely. And just this thought, this switch of seeing it as a competence and seeing it as something that makes you move and that gives you space. I mean, it's hard, but it's a nice way to see it too. And it's super nice because it just came from the person herself in the moment. So watch the film.
Good evening, Georg, medical student here. What is mind, what is body, and what is the relation between the two?
It's very philosophical. Who wants to do this? It's a tricky one.
All of you can try.
This is a question I'm constantly busy with thinking, and I really like the way how so folk medicine in the East, like let's say like now I'm studying Thai folk medicine, and basically there is all of these layers, and so there is the physical layer, the structural layer, then there is the emotional, energetical layer, then there is a spiritual layer, and then within the body there is also different elements that are being manifested in a different way. So we have like four main elements, like water, earth, fire, and wind or air. And then we also have the fifth element, which is space. And I really like this way of seeing the body because it's very poetic, and I think there's like a lot of creativity in this like philosophies, these ways, these lenses of how to see the body that resonate with me. And speaking about this idea of the space is also like the space within of our body, space between our organs, space between our tissues, our bones, but also like the outside spaces, how they influence our internal spaces. Because when we think about body, like I experience my body, okay, this is this physical thing, and this is the border of my body, and that's where it ends, but it's not. Like the border is much further, and like these borders are much more fluid. We just think that they are like solid, but they're actually very fluid. And you know, we all know that like we share the air in this room, we breathe the same air, and we are much closer to each other than we think.
In the research or in the field that I move in, the mind is the brain, the body is the body that surrounds the brain. In my view, I would follow Merleau-Ponty. I don't know, it's a philosopher, maybe you know him, who understands the body and the mind as one, as an embodied system that interacts with the world. Short answer.
You both put it very well. Maybe I want to add a rant maybe to side Shada Kurt, because she was really ranting on Plato, who made this whole disaster kind of happen because he started the binary. There was good, there was bad, there was dark, there was light, there's a gender binary, there's everything is binary. And we're still living with this body and mind binary, and everything is just so limiting and binary, and it's really getting on my nerves. So I really don't like this binary. So I'm kind of, yeah. I just want to rant a bit.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah. I'm Tara, I go by she, her. I'm a psychologist. So one thing I'm thinking about is we were talking about therapy and sanism, but I would not, in changing my own mindset, I would not want to approach the topic of embodiment or my body only in situations where I feel, where I think I need it. So, oh yeah, no, I'm not feeling that well. Maybe I should go focus and do something with my body now. Because that comes from the mind again. Do you have any suggestions for practices or rituals that each of us can take home in order to activate and use the intelligence of our body and the processing of our body on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, not only in these critical situations where I'm like, oh, now I should do this?
So maybe you're going to have some practical advice on that. But I want to say, I think something that makes it also very different is if there's somebody holding your space. I think it's much harder to deal with stuff in your own, doing your own ritual way. I think it's much easier if you have a community, if you have your people, even if it's a therapist or so, who's holding the space for you, then I think it's much easier to let go and go into these kind of processes, maybe as a disclaimer.
I work in a psychosomatic day clinic, and there it's all about finding out what your somatic symptoms want to tell you, because there is no somatic reason for them. Headaches all the time, but you don't have migraine really, but it's somehow connected to something you feel. Or always stomach aches, or tinnitus. I don't know if that word exists in English. Yeah. So, and it's very interesting that you asked that, because we have group therapy. We sit there and we talk about these symptoms. And now I realized, interesting, because we ask the people and we talk about how can you find out what your physical symptoms tell you, but we don't integrate physical exercises on a daily basis. We have a physiotherapist who does individual physiotherapy, and we also have movement therapy, but it's not something that we do, for example, every time in the beginning of every psychotherapeutic session. And I'm going to think about this.
We have the best tool we need for that, which is our attention. And there is constantly so many inputs and impulses and information is coming from the environment to us that we can notice with our attention. And this is already being embodied, like what kind of sound I hear, how does it land in my ears, what is happening with my breathing, oh, my belly, it's like rising and falling, rising and falling. And we can call it meditation, we can call it somatic practice of attention. Like closing the eyes is like really, I think, a very simple practice, but it brings back to the body being like, okay, what is happening inside of me? Yeah. So it's, yeah, very easy. Like I really like yawning also, you know, just like yawning. It like really relaxes the whole system, which is great practice. Like people who do professional singing, they are professional yawners. Yeah. So, yeah.
Hello, my name is Fritzi. I go by he, they. And yeah, it's a question that I'm just rather popping up in the air, because it resonates a lot with me. Ritual, witchcraft, sorcerer stuff. But I'm a doctor, so how can I bring those two worlds together? I see ritual as a massive way of reconnecting collectively, sharing grief of falling ill, maybe having taken drugs and suddenly the first schizophrenic episode, the first psychotic break kicked off. And I'm struggling, how can I integrate this knowledge into a medical system that is so narrow-minded, so hard, so disembodied? I started working in January as a psychiatrist. I had a herniated disc in April because my work environment is so, and it's, yeah, but that's not the question. Is it going to be possible that we integrate ritual into the medical system, or does it have to be preclinical spaces? Can I recommend it to patients? Stuff that is not yet evidence-based?
My first thought is that I think the psychiatric system is full of rituals. We do the same thing every day. We have our morning routine. Patients do the same thing every day, and depending on the ward. But it's not the rituals that you mean, the ones that are, but there is a lot of rituals and it's always the same. But the ones that you mean probably are somehow expanding or also putting your focus on different areas like the body and so on. So it's such a, I mean, how can you influence the system at all? I feel very, very helpless in this, always. And yeah, I think to integrate it into the practice now in a ward is, you really have to have a good connection to your supervisor or to people who you work with. Yeah.
I went last week to take a first aid course to get a driving license this year. And one of the first things that the person was telling us, first thing, take care of yourself. Like, because if you're not staying safe, then you simply cannot help others. So what you need to do being in the system is to take care of yourself and not change the system, because it's very hard to change the system. I would say impossible. Yeah, and then like small steps, maybe create your own community within the system that is growing. But I want to also share this example that I watched a documentary, and I kind of remember this image, and I think it's really beautiful, and it stayed with me. It was about like a clinic, like a not systemic clinic, but like self-organized clinic in China that was practicing traditional Chinese medicine, but also they were doing like surgeries because it was in a rural area where it was impossible to get a medical care because you need to travel far. And in this clinic, each patient had a small, tiny altar. So the people who were taking care of them, they were also, besides giving medicine and giving treatments, they were also feeding these altars of each patient. So I wish something like that for us as well.
I would also like to add on something. Were you here at the last session? Because then you should watch it. It's online, because it was very much about rituals. A lot of the last session was about rituals, and Benno Brinkhaus shared a very interesting research on the placebo effect, or what he called the meaning or context effect, which is basically all ritual. This happens in a clinical situation as much as it happens in a healing or whatever kind of performance, or even the lady that you described in the beginning that went around you whispering with the egg. And if I remember correctly, and please help me if I don't, there were 5 key points that this research showed. It was with a focus on acupuncture, but generally speaking, that it's obviously the mindset of the patient, like how do I enter this, the mindset of the doctor or the practitioner, their relationship, is it one of trust or not trust? Actually, the aesthetics of it, in this case, the needle, the aesthetic of the acupuncture needle, or what color does the pill have? Or whatever this is thing. So aesthetics really means something. And the setting, the space, everything happens in. Is it a white room with neon lights, or is it, more? So these 5 conditions make the context, and they make up, if I remember correctly, up to 75% of the healing. And that's huge. So this is like clinical studies. So I recommend you to look at this again, because this was one of the key topics, like the rituals in both of these worlds, and actually the effectiveness of it. And for me, it was quite a game changer to hear this. Yeah. Say that again. The communication. Yeah, but that's the relationship between. That's the third one. That the communication between the patient and the practitioner, which you can also say communication, but like how that happens. But it was these 5 points. Yeah. But you wanted to add something.
I also want to add to this that there is actually some small islands who change these things. For example, the Soteria that we worked with, I don't know if you know it, but they have the ritual. First of all, it's a beautiful space. They really changed it architecturally, also won an architecture prize in an architecture prize for it. And it was a long process to change it, to make it beautiful. And then the heart of the whole ward is a huge table and a beautiful kitchen. And the ritual is to go shopping together and to cook with each other every day. So there is no food served by the hospital, no hospital food and weird things, but they cook together, and also people walk around and you don't know who's doctor, who's patient, So there is these islands who think about the aesthetics, who try to change things. And it took a long, long time, but Martin Voss, who did the whole thing, he's very open also to talk about it. He changed the whole ward. He restructured it completely. And so there is a system change example that maybe makes you hopeful.
I also want to add some hope and maybe some more radicalness, because you just said that the system is not changeable. I think actually it is changeable. You just need to find your people, build it, banden, speak up. When you're holding professorships and higher positions, don't end up with the establishment, but really change something, just not just be the same person like your supervisors did before. And I think also that we need to think, be careful how we think about health and mental health also in this way, because the dominant way of thinking about health is a very privileged way. It's white, it's cishet, it's able-bodied, it's middle class. And then we speak about healing, and I think it's a very naive and privileged thing to think about healing then just for these few people. And I think I really doubt that actually currently healing is totally possible, I would say. I think it's not possible if we don't use accountability and rage and love and collaboration and community on this. And I think it's not possible in times of late-stage capitalism and colonial violence going on and oppression. I think we need also to think on a bigger level. We need total liberation, that actually all of us might one day be able kind of to heal and have a good life for everybody. So I really want to challenge these norms of changing the system.
I just can say I totally agree with you. And I want to encourage you to, to change the system. And I think the system is, almost craving for witchcraft or something like Zauberei. I don't know in English. Magic, some magic moments, and this is also, like similar to healing processes, I think, because our brain, our mind is so complex. It does quantum physics, and we still don't know actually how it really works out. As I don't know if you heard about the computer in Jülich, where they try to make an artificial brain. And they just can't. The scientists don't. They are not able to make up an artificial human brain. It's really a miracle. This is already witchcraft, and so we and what do I wanted to say? Sometimes these little things we would describe as maybe magic. We don't know sometimes where healing is happening or what really helps. But it's sometimes it feels like a little miracle. Like, I don't know. I work with confetti acute. It's made of glitzer, and you throw it in the air when you feel sad. But you can do it as long, throw it in the air as you like to feel better. And it works most of the time.
Have you bought some?
I can send you if I mix.
Please do so. I need
a
some.
special mixture only clinic clowns are able to do, but I can teach you. It's not a problem.
Perfect ritual.
Oh.
You want to add something to the statement? And great that we have a clinic clown here as well. An art therapist, yes, but still. There's another question here otherwise, or do you want to? No. I'd say maximum 2 more questions. And
hi, I'm Luisa. I'm an art historian. And do you hear me? And first of all, I loved your talks. It was very interesting. And also, I think it's so important to fight the stigma of like schizophrenia and other illnesses. But I have a little bit of a critique, maybe, because what I was missing the whole discussion is that we're still talking about mental illnesses, right? Like it's those people fight with feelings and thoughts. I, as a healthy person, I can't nachverfolgen. What is it like? Relate to or like feel these feelings. And I just wanted to add that to the discussion, but because I think it's very important to still keep that in mind and like not accidentally glorify these illnesses.
Yeah.
So
we hear you. We hear you. This is actually also not what we want to do, to clarify neurodivergence. We just want to work because there's the one thing. Some of our collaborators were suffering from it, but there are also symptoms they actually did not suffer from. Like one person had a very positive, up-cheering voice. Not everything is suffering about schizophrenia. This is what we wanted to make clear. And then we have maybe, if we do have suffering in terms of a mental crisis or mental states that hold my whole life, this might be, but what we wanted to fight against is the other violence they face from the society. This is the point where we wanted to start, because this is something we can actually stop together if we work on it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We don't want to glorify neurodivergence. I think we want to glorify neurodiversity, I would say.
And all of these people had symptoms that they wouldn't want to have again. But for me, it's important to see crises in your life as something that you go through and you are richer of one experience, although you suffered a lot. And a crisis can be symptoms of schizophrenia, but it can be also a breakup, and it can be something that hurts you a lot. And all of us have crises. And this is the point. And that this is an experience that you can bring to others, and you can maybe make others understand, and then they also get richer.
Thank you. Oh, quick one or long one? What? A quick one. Okay, one more quick class, and then we close this off with a little ritual.
Hi, I'm Natasha. I work as a curator and project manager in arts and science. And usually I work with artists and scientists, but I haven't worked with people who have two pounding hearts. And so it was nice to hear from your experience. And I was wondering, because we started speaking about your project again, how the audience perceived the artworks. And as I understood, your goal was to make it understandable. And I wanted to ask if you could share some feedback of the people who came to visit the exhibitions.
I think the people came and had this is what we did in the pre-test post-test, what were association, what were ideas about schizophrenia. And I think they came and expected something like we're explaining what schizophrenia is in some informative kind of way. And it just came there, and I think at first sight, nobody really saw that there was this huge art festival in 2 rooms in a public space. Nobody really realized that it's an informative thing we're doing, that it's about schizophrenia at all. So I think it's very immersive, that it was all kind of communicated through the artworks you could try out. And then afterwards, we had artist talks. We had always artists there who then started talking about it and connecting it. A lot of them spoke very freely then about their experiences and how it connects to it. So it was just, I think, a natural atmosphere via the art, that people started with the art and then somehow started making connections to the topic we were working on. So I would say this was the main mechanism that kind of worked and made it also interesting. And it was not like we just put free images there. This is the exhibition like we often see in these times or ways, but it was really an art festival. It was really contemporary art, intermediate art we did there. I think this also made a difference, not to, focus so much on the deficits, but on the art itself.
Very short. My favorite quote is the quote of the father of one collaborator who worked with us, and he knows his son for all his life. In the family, there is many people who experience symptoms of schizophrenia, And he knows the topic, he knows what happens. And he came and he sent us a message afterwards saying, thank you so much, because I really understood it on a deeper and other level now, my own son. So that it touched me very deeply, and I was super grateful for this comment.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much. I would like to close this with a little embodiment and a little ritual. I was thinking of something I like to do in another context, but just for the fun of it. Okay, so it's 2 hours almost, and we're a little bit down with the energy, so we do a little energy exercise. Are you ready for this? Good. So what you have to do is rub your hands now. So yes, properly, and more. It will go to the point where you get annoyed a little bit. It's like, when is this stopping? And while you continue, I will tell you what comes next. So while you do this, in a moment you can also close your eyes, but when I say stop, and I don't say this now, you will kind of keep your very little your hands apart from one another, just a little bit, and then see what you feel in between the two palms. Not yet. No, you're rubbing. You're still rubbing. You have to do an extra half a minute. So properly rub. Now rub it properly. Now close your eyes. Rub, close your eyes. Okay, we do another 10 seconds properly. 10, 9, yes, exhausting. 7, 5, 3, you're not rubbing. 2. Okay, so when I say stop, you keep your eyes closed and you very slowly keep your hands apart. So stop, let's move them a little bit apart. And now closer and away and closer and away. And you feel that little ball there? Yeah? Okay, so you keep that. Now you can open your eyes. Keep that there. And now you shower yourself with it. Oh. See, and now you can leave the space full of energy. And I would like to thank our wonderful speakers. Thank you for taking your time. Thank you for the open dialogue. Thank you to the Charité and the International Society for Arts and Medicine that we can be here at the Charité, talk about witchcraft and psychiatry, medicine and healing, last time about healing. So thank you so much. And I hope to see you again in 2 weeks for the next edition of the Healing Arts. Many thanks. Oh, and one more thing. It's at the beginning. Talk to someone. Like, don't leave this room before talking to someone that you didn't know before. Okay? Promise. Super gut. Yeah.